Yay.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
I'm good. It's sleeting here in the Northeast in my area.
All right. I think that's what we had like last night. I woke up this morning and there were a few inches of snow on the ground. School was not canceled though for that. I mean, we had that problem last week, but nope.
Canceled here. I have two, they're not Rugrats anymore. Whatever the next level up from Rugrats is, they're parked in front of the boob tube while we do this. 'Cause I'm a
Nice.
bad parent.
Nice. Okay. No, you're a good parent. Parents matter. Parents matter, Eric. Parents matter.
Oh,
Parents
I
matter.
love that. That's a
Parents
great
matter.
shirt.
Yeah,
I need
thank
one
you.
of them.
Somebody sent it to me in the mail. Yeah.
Nice.
Little Christmas present. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Team Reality Podcast. Today is Friday, February 25th. Just another day in the endless series of COVID insanity. My name is Erich Hartman, broadcasting from the deep blue reaches of suburban New York City.
And I'm Jessica Hockett, coming at you from the moderately blue DuPage County, west of Chicago.
Nice. So we have a really cool guest today. We have Clayton P. Cobb, who goes by Hold2 on Twitter, and has honestly been one of the most helpful data dudes throughout this entire ordeal. He's just awesome.
Yep. I followed him in the early days. I don't know when you
Me too.
started following Clayton. It took me a long time to get him to follow me. I'm not bitter about it though. I'm okay with it, but I finally earned.
Oh, he's a notorious follow snob. Maybe we have to.
We'll have to question
confront
him about that
confront
for
him
sure.
on that.
For sure. But we have a couple of news items to cover first before we bring Clayton in, right? Just two. You want to start with one, and I'll follow up.
Yeah. So a couple things. Obviously, there's always everything going on at once, right? But what this morning? So we're going to show these things in slightly reverse order. The second one is going to be the fact that the CDC is changing their guidance, right? Spoiler alert. They're going to announce something today. There's a lot of speculation as to what that is. But this morning, our friend and co-conspirator Julie Hamill shared this tweet. And this is, I'm just going to read her tweet. Here is the literal memo to the Dems from Biden's polling firm. This was leaked or quasi-released this morning. And the overall idea here is for Dems to declare a win over COVID and move on. Obviously, she's right. We suspect the CDC got the same memo. She's in California, so she tweets at her leadership there to try and shake them loose. But this is kind of crazy. If we just delve into this real quick, this comes from Impact Research. And, we're all kind of familiar with, political polling and this, strategies and stuff. It's not a surprise that this sort of stuff exists. It's very expensive. It's a very lucrative, sort of beltway industry. But this is Biden's polling firm. And this is kind of a big deal for a few reasons. And we'll go through it. But again, the gist of this is the polling, and we know this, the polling is so bad on COVID. The polling is so bad for Democrats and their ridiculous, ineffective, destructive lockdown policies, especially having to do with kids, that they are about to get shellacked. And that's what this is a response to.
Yep. And there's 5 or 6 talking points, basically bullet points on the 2 pages.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that's what they are. They're talking points. They give some, well, why don't you highlight some things that you think kind of stand out to you, and then I'll highlight some things.
I mean, this is all just rich. And by rich, I mean just insulting to the intelligence. But the first one is to declare the crisis phase of COVID over and push for feeling and acting more normal. Here's the highlight. Thanks to Democrats,
oh my
we are nowhere near where we were 2 years ago or even 1 year ago. Democrats have a tremendous opportunity to claim an incredible historic success. They vaccinated hundreds of millions of people, prevented the economy from going into free fall. What? Kept small businesses from going under. What? Double what? And got people back to work safely. Again, define safely. Because of President Biden and Democrats, we can safely return to life feeling much more normal. And Democrats should claim that proudly.
This is an attempt to rewrite history. This is an
Yep.
attempt to pretend that Ron DeSantis and Florida don't exist, right? I mean, let alone other states and areas of the country that have long been acting like normal, right? Where things have gone back to normal. Um, yeah, and I won't say I'm triggered by phrases like "thanks to Democrats," but my spidey sense. Well, it's not even a spidey sense thing. It's just it's so blatant, right? Like we have to take credit for this. We have to move on. Um, it's hilarious because as recently as really earlier this week, I think I sometimes lose track of time in COVID land, but
Yep.
I think earlier this week, I mean, my governor JB Pritzker was still like doubling down, tripling down on school masking. He's appealed to the Illinois Supreme Court, and we have to do masking and testing infrastructure. We heard that from Michael Osterholm, right, on the Joe
Yep.
Rogan podcast. So, I mean, it's not like Democrats have been letting up in the past even week or 2 weeks,
No.
right? And so, but the State of the Union is coming on Tuesday, right?
Yep.
So pivot. We got to switch.
Well, and it's interesting that they just, how few Democrats have actually gotten this memo, because this memo is not new news. I mean, it really isn't, not even politically. I mean, obviously we've known this for, at least over a year. And if anybody's paying attention, somewhat honestly, they know this. The second bullet point here points this out. This is, the polling: 2/3 of parents and 80% of teachers say the pandemic caused learning loss, et cetera, et cetera. This is the figures paragraph. And then if we go to the next page, this is obvious. Acknowledge COVID still exists and likely will for a long time. That's the hedge. Don't set COVID zero as the victory condition. This is absolutely pointing, targeting back to the zero COVID crowd, which they created. Right. That's their own monster. The Bragmans of the world, the Blacks of the world, the Dings of the world. They did this, and they're having to deal with their own monster.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of truth in what they say in this memo, right?
Of course.
I mean, yes, people are worn out. Yes, we have to move away from messaging that restricts people's lives or doesn't give people an endpoint that what do they say, onerous restrictions somewhere, this. So I'm glad that they're highlighting that the zero COVID forever messaging is destructive, although they don't quite go as far as to say it's like hurting people's lives and it's hurting the economy, right? But those things are definitely true. It's more
they have
like,
it in the figures though, but they don't.
Well, that's
you're
true.
right. They don't actually
That's true.
come out and say it
and
themselves.
say that. But I mean, really, the point of all this is that this is going to hurt us at the polls in November. Like that's the urgency here. Like if we don't move away from this, like it's going to be a bloodbath in November.
Absolutely.
That's what this is all about. Really.
Right. And that's what this last, paragraph point says, right? Stop talking about restrictions and the unknown future ahead. If we focus on how bad things still are and how much worse they could get, Osterholm, everybody,
exactly,
we set Democrats up as failures, unable to navigate us through this. When 99% of Americans can get vaccinated, we cause more harm than we prevent with voters by going into our third year talking about restrictions.
Right.
And if Democrats continue to hold a posture that prioritizes COVID precautions over learning how we live in a world where COVID exists, but does not dominate, they risk paying dearly for it in November.
Yeah.
Nicer way of saying what you just said.
Well, and I think they're going to pay for it in November no matter what, right? It's too late. It's too late. They passed up all the exit ramps, right? And then we finally had, I think, other red state governors or just pockets throughout the country kind of forcing these blue state governors' hands. I mean, in Illinois, we had the court on February 4th kind of smack down the governor. So I think that helps. But I mean, JB Pritzker, Newsom, they weren't going to change things on their own, right? I mean, they were just going to keep bulldozing ahead. So it's amazing, really, to see the pivot that's about to happen. But we cannot let them forget that they do not get to declare victory. They do not get to declare victory. At least in my mind, they don't.
I have lost my audio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
No, you can't hear me.
No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Come in and it ruined it.
That's okay. I can hear you. I don't know if anybody else can hear me. Clayton, can you hear me? Clayton, can you wave at me if you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah.
Darn it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can keep going because Clayton can
If
hear
you can
me.
hear me,
I can.
I'm going to come out.
Technical difficulty. Okay. That sounds
You
good.
can do
Technical difficulties.
CDC one on your own.
Yeah. I'll do the CDC as long as I'm going to assume that I am